I think of it as exactly what you said. It's all these scientists who are going back to their labs and they're running hundreds of tests times hundreds of people in the mastermind, right? And they're all coming back with their results. Imagine how much further you can get with trying to figure out what works and what doesn't when everybody is doing independent experiments and they're bringing all that collective knowledge back. The power of that is you can't even imagine how powerful that is. And the second thing you said that I think is key, and you appreciate it as time goes on, but it's time, right? Time is the only thing you can't get back. If you lose your money on a deal, you can make it back. You can make it back and more. Everything is pretty much renewable except time. And when I was 20, I'd waste time like it wasn't anything. I didn't care. But as you get older, you realize everything boils down to time. How much time is it taking me? What am I not doing with that time? And how much time do I have, right? So, right. I mean, to me, to join a mastermind, to save myself time and headaches and failures, it's not that you're never going to fail, but you're not going to make the same mistakes, hopefully, that other people made. And I'm accelerating the time. Man, that is worth everything to me.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke, and today we have Mike Simmons. Mike is a real estate investor, coach, host of the popular podcast, Just Start Real Estate, and a partner in the seven-figure flipping, one of the nation's largest real estate mastermind groups. Mike, thank you so much for joining us on the show, and how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, definitely. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. It's a pleasure to be on here. So yeah, just excited, man. Excited to be on here and talk to your folks.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Like I said, I love talking from different types of real estate investors. We got apartment guys, we got self-storage guys, we got house flippers, we got everything in between. Just kind of meet that particular need, what people are looking for. But we'd love to learn a little bit more about your business, but particularly your background. How did you get started in real estate?
Yeah, definitely. Probably very similar to a lot of people out there. I feel like I always say that I felt like I had to escape the gravitational pull of the 9 to 5, right? It's like it just keeps pulling you back. It's sometimes it feels safe, which we know it's really not. But being in Michigan, a Michigan person, automotive industry is really where it's at here, right? Everyone's sort of tied to that who works a day job, it seems like. And I was no different. I was in the automotive industry, working 9 to 5, kind of a mid-level management job. And honestly, I just wasn't super happy. And when you're not happy, your brain starts looking for a way out. So my way out, or my thought was, how can I retire? Like, how can I accelerate retirement? How do I do that? And investing seemed logical to me, but I just didn't even know about real estate investing. So I just thought like stocks and bonds and day trading and being in the stock market was going to be the ticket. So I started researching that stuff. I started looking into stocks and how to buy and sell stocks, and I can't even talk about it now because the short story is I never really figured it out. So I tried to learn, I bought books, I got online, and I just hated it. It was like someone forcing me to read like insurance books. Like I just couldn't get myself to do it. I hated it. But as you start researching investing, like generically on Google, you'll stumble upon real estate investing, right? So I did. And once I found real estate investing, I was completely enthralled. Like I loved it, every bit of it. I didn't get tired of it. Like I was just this insatiable monster, just absorbing and eating up all this real estate knowledge that I could, and eventually led to me making offers. And I got kind of lucky in a way. Like my big mantra right now and forever is just start, right? That's why you mentioned in the beginning, I have a podcast. I call it Just Start Real Estate, because that's exactly what I think people's number one problem is when they want to do this, when they want to get involved in real estate, they have a problem starting. Like starting is the hardest part, right? Making that first offer, getting that first deal. So, to be perfectly transparent and vulnerable, I got the real estate bug in 2003, didn't buy my first house till 2008. So there were 5 years of me, reading, paralysis analysis, thinking I needed to know a little bit more, like being nervous and I couldn't get off the starting block. Like I couldn't do it. And I finally did. I just hit a point where I was like, this is ridiculous. I've not done anything. I'm reading, I'm absorbing, I'm learning, but you're not a real estate investor until you get that first deal. So started making offers. It was 2008. Everyone knows what happened in 2008. It was really bad for real estate in terms of house prices. So I made my first offer on a house, got it accepted. A couple weeks later, after I'd made my deposit and everything, the small local bank that I had used went under. They went out of business. And that was happening to some of these smaller lenders. And the whole deal fell apart. It was a disaster. I lost my deposit because I couldn't get funding in time. So that was horrible. But the good news is a couple of months later, about 6 months later, I actually got another offer accepted in the same neighborhood, one street away, for half the price I bought the first one for. I was going to buy the first one for. So the prices were going down so fast that honestly, had that first deal gone through, I would have lost my butt. Like, it would have been bad. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. So we ended up getting that second house. We flipped it. We got a regular conventional mortgage for it. Like, that's, pretty strange in itself. And we used credit cards and savings to do the renovation. And we ended up making $15,000. Now, you may be listening to this. Somebody listening is going, $15,000. Like, well, it was a $40,000 house. You know what I mean? Like, in Michigan back then, we're talking about 3-bedroom brick ranch with a full basement, a 2-car garage, like really nice, like middle income house. But prices had just plummeted. So it was a $40,000 purchase. We sold it for $80,000 and did some work in between and made a lot of mistakes. But, I ended up making $15,000 and I was off to the races after that.
Wow. Yeah, I guess it's really just about, you had said, just starting. Some people probably would have got discouraged after the first deal. You continue to, persevere and say, I'm going to continue this. You believed in the real estate and said, I'm going to put some action into this and end up, getting you that first win, you would say, that will now put you to the next level of stuff. Are your primary business model, are you like a buy and flip type of investor? Do you buy and hold as well? And do you do any other type of techniques?
I've been doing this for 12 years, so I've kind of done all of those things. My business right now, we do a lot of marketing and buying for other investors. So it's called wholesaling in the real estate investing world. So we do a lot of wholesaling. We do some strategic flipping when we think that that's just the way to maximize the opportunity. We'll flip it ourselves because I have that background. And about 5 years ago, I started accumulating rentals as well because I knew that was a good passive way to go. Kind of a unique and really creative way of doing that. So I have I think 20 rentals now. I say I think because I'm buying and sometimes I sell them, so it fluctuates, but I'm around 20 right now. And the way I did that was I found an investor who had the money, but not the time or the knowledge. And so I have zero money into my 20 rentals, like none of my own money. So my responsibility is to find them, get them renovated, get them rented, and start the cash flow. But all the money is provided by my partner. So yeah, I've got a partner in them, but I literally have infinite ROI on my end because I'm not spending my own money, which is just one way to do it, right? There's a lot of ways to do that, but just for anyone who's interested, that's how I did it, and it works pretty well for me. Because honestly, I don't have to go raise money. I don't have to worry about payments if there's vacancies. Like, we split the cash flow, so if it's vacant, I don't lose money either. Like, there's no way. Theoretically, no real way for me to lose money unless the market tanks and we have to sell. But you just don't sell when that happens. You hold on to it.
Exactly. And as far as kind of like you acquiring deals, are you going like the traditional route, working with the realtor, checking what's on the MLS, or you also send out letters? Or I used to put the signs up, we buy houses, and get the foreclosure list and send out stuff. Are you doing things like that also?
Man, we do a lot. So we are not using realtors. That's one thing we're not doing. I think that's probably going to come back a little bit. In the MLS where we are, it's tough. It's real difficult to find a deal. They're just not as much out there because it's kind of a seller's market right now. I think it is that way a lot of places, but in Michigan for sure, it's a seller's market. So people are getting top dollar in the MLS. It's not really a great area for investors. You can find deals. It's just, there's a lot less fish in the fishing hole for sure. So what we do in our company is, for the past 5 years, we've done a lot of direct mail, and for us, it's been postcards, not letters. I think when it comes to direct mail, I really truly believe with all my heart, it's a lot more about timing than it is about maybe the quality of the message. And I'm not saying you don't worry about the copy, and you don't worry about the presentation. You do, but I think if I can send a letter for 32 cents and it costs me 50 cents to send, if I can send a postcard for 32 cents and it costs me 50 cents or even 45 cents to send a letter, I can get more postcards out, I think that's, for me, that's the way to win in direct mail. Because I always tell people, if I have a house and I'm not interested in selling it at all, you can send me the greatest direct mail piece, the most well-written, the most engaging, and I'm not going to sell because I'm not in that place yet.
Right.
But if I wake up one day and I lose my job and my wife wants to divorce me, and I get a postcard that says, "We buy houses, call me, cash fast," I'm calling. I don't care that it wasn't a letter or it didn't maybe look as professional. It's all about when you hit them. So if it's about when you hit the person, then to me, it's a volume thing. You need to be in front of them as often as you can. And if it's just about getting in front of them with the message as often as you can, to me, you have to do it in the least expensive way possible so you can do more.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Because when I used to do, the letters as well as the signs on the road, the types of calls we used to get, we used to ask, is there a particular reason you're looking to sell at this time? Either in divorce, or I lost a job, or some type of motivating factor at that particular time that makes them prompt that they need to sell. And of course, if you're going to be buying cash, you're going to be looking at buying at I use maximum allowable offer, and do all the calculations and stuff like that. So because of course, you're not going to buy at retail, is to make sure that it's a good fit for you. So definitely feel you there when you're doing all of the marketing aspects to get those deals for yourself.
Yep. And that's, so direct mail has probably been the primary source of lead generation over the past 5 years. But some of the other ways that we've used with a lot of success is PPC, Google AdWords. So we spend a pretty good amount of money every month in Google AdWords. And right now, Google AdWords is outperforming direct mail. It's just doing better. And I think a lot of it is, people are at home, they're on the internet, they're Googling stuff because they're not working. We had a situation where it kind of came to our attention that, at least in Michigan, there was a period of time where people were kind of nervous about opening up their mail just because they didn't want to, they didn't know how the virus was spread. They didn't want to touch anything. So, direct mail took a hit for us. So we started focusing on PPC. We do some SMS stuff, some text messaging stuff, and some ringless voicemail type stuff. So we kind of cover a lot of things. We've done bandit signs, those signs you were talking about. They don't work great for us. They never really have. They're okay, but they're so cheap. But honestly, it was more hassle than it was worth, because the municipalities don't like those signs, right? So you end up getting calls from them, and now you're kind of ducking them. And I don't know. I just don't like it. What is it? The juice isn't worth the squeeze, or I don't know what they say. It's just not worth it for me. So direct mail, PPC, text, and ringless voicemail are really the 4 pillars of how we get deals now.
Yeah, I like that a lot, especially the PPC, which I haven't tried at all. Because when I started, it was like 05, 06, when that was probably, that particular technique was effective then. But I like that PPC. Are you then, getting the keywords and then sending them to a landing page, funneling them down? Or how's your process, you guys?
Yeah, so I'll be perfectly honest with you here. This isn't my area of expertise. So I know that PPC, Google AdWords, it's a skill. And I don't have that knowledge, and I don't think it's worth my time to become an expert at that. So I've hired it out. But yeah, I mean, the basics, for people who don't know, the basics of PPC is, it's like an auction system. You're bidding on popular search terms, right? Could be sell my house fast, would be like an example of an extremely competitive search term, right? Or sell my house in Michigan, sell my house for cash, like all these, how do I sell my house? All these search terms, you're bidding on them. So with direct mail, you can say, I'm going to spend $5,000 on direct mail, and that's going to get me whatever, 15,000 postcards is going to go out, right? And if I want to send out 20,000 postcards, I just spend more money and I send more out, and therefore kind of increasing my likelihood of getting a deal, right? So you can push the gas down on direct mail. When it comes to PPC, you really can't. You can allocate a budget per day, and then if you're searching, if you're trying to bid on terms that are highly competitive and you're in a competitive market, you may hit your budget by mid-month or by midday, and then you stop bidding because you've hit your. So in other words, you can make your budget for PPC $1 million a month, but maybe you can't spend more than 5,000 because you're not in a super competitive market, and that's just, you're ranked number 1 for all the search terms, and you spend $5,000. Doesn't matter how much you allocate, you're just never going to spend more than you have to spend. The flip side of that is, if you're in a highly competitive market and you set your budget at $5,000, but it takes $15,000 to get, to be able to bid on some of these. So it's a process of like, of adjusting and creating a strategy that allows you to bid on the most competitive keywords for your budget. It does you no good to bet on a keyword that you run out of your budget day one, right? And then you're not advertising the rest of the month. So it's a little bit more of like, it's an auction and you have a budget and you try to work within that budget, as opposed to direct mail. It's like, I want to send out 10,000 postcards. It's going to cost me, $3,000 or whatever it is. And I want to send out 20,000. Cost me $6,000. It's very, very linear. It's just a little different with PPC. It's frustrating at times because PPC works so good for me. I have a marketing manager, and I've told him, let's double our budget. Like, let's just go all in on this. And he's like, we're ranked number 1 and 2 for all these terms. Like, it would become irresponsible to try to spend more money because we would be bidding on terms that aren't really helping us that much.
Right.
So it's just an interesting thing. Like, I'm kind of aggressive that way in business. Like, let's go. It's working. Let's do double the amount. And he's like, so I had to wrap my mind around that concept too.
Yeah, definitely. When seeing, like I said, you get your 1 and 2. You're doing very well. So like I said, there's kind of like an adjustment to see if there's other competitors that come in, then you can kind of scale up.
Sure.
And of course, depending on your margins that you make on your flips or your rental holds, that you can, still sustain whatever, marketing budget you have. So that's awesome to hear. And yeah, definitely that's a really growing, way to blow up your business.
It is. And just for people who don't know, just for the record, Google AdWords or PPC, the kind of interchangeable terms, it really is like if you type in "sell my house fast," the first 4 or 5 things that show up on Google, those are paid. Those are ads. Those are people who are bidding on those terms. So just so you know, like that's what we're talking about, like being number 1 or 2 on a Google search, and all of those first handful of responses on Google or the first page, it's all people who are buying, bidding on that term. So that's where you're trying to be.
As far as kind of like how it is now, people are, I think, everything's starting to thaw out. People are starting to slowly open up the states, some faster than others. Real estate investors always going to be, educating themselves to find, what's the, way that they can kind of get started. How are you kind of advising people now that, opportunities are starting to look hopeful and people want to get started? What kind of advise them on how to get started?
Yeah, it's a great question. Number one, the way to get started, and I apologize if this sounds a little bit like I'm being sarcastic, but the best way to get started is to start, right? Like a lot of people spend a lot of time preparing to start. And some people feel like when they are preparing to start, i.e. reading books or trying to gather information, going to RIAs, to them it sort of feels like they have started, but they haven't because they haven't made any offers. So I can give you 2 great examples in my own personal life. So I have a daughter. She, at the time when this story took place, she was 24. She had just turned 24. And she wanted to start getting involved in real estate, right? She had just graduated with her master's degree. She got a full-time job, but she's just a go-getter. So she's like, I want to start doing real estate. What do you suggest? And I said, my suggestion to you, you have a full-time job. I think flipping houses is probably your easiest or lowest barrier to entry would be trying to flip. As a wholesaler, what I do primarily in my business, there's a lot of marketing, a lot of sales, answering phones. There's a lot of follow-up, and there's a lot of active activity that goes on. If you're going to flip houses, which is what I told her to do, you get on every wholesaler's list, you start getting in touch with some realtors in the area, and you start, looking for deals that people have already found, and then you're going to buy those deals from them. So I told her that, and within a month she had 3 properties under contract. Wow. Right? So she's a go-getter. I said, don't bother coming to me if you're going to sit around and just ask me a bunch of questions and never take any action. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. You get on these wholesalers list, every deal that they mail out, I want you to make an offer on. I don't care if it's lower than what they want. If it seems like they're not going to accept it. I'm a wholesaler. I know what goes through the minds of a wholesaler. Typically, we put the property out higher than what we think we can get. And if we get somebody bites, great. We'll sell it for that amount. But we need to see what people are offering. We need to know what people where the market is. So you giving them an offer helps them, and it's also going to separate you because a lot of people are going to see that first price and they go too high and they just delete the email, right?
Right.
Don't do that because we've sold hundreds of houses to people who made a pretty low offer on our first deal, but we came back because we knew what they would offer. So she did that and started making tons of offers and got her first 3 deals under contract within a month.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely just about taking action there. And it kind of leads to my next question, because I kind of mentioned to you pre-show that I'm really big on mastermind groups, and have a couple personal mastermind groups. We meet, 5 a.m. in the morning and kind of say, what did you do last week? What are you doing this week? And then just kind of keep people but accountable on things and kind of get them motivated. Can you talk about your mastermind group, how it started, what's involved, and things for people that may be interested?
Yeah, absolutely. I will tell you, I was the biggest person who would have told you 6 years ago, masterminds are not important, that you don't need them, right? I was against them until I joined my first mastermind, and it blew my doors off. Literally, all of the growth I've had in my company, and it's hockey sticked over the last 5 years, it's because of a mastermind. It's because I surrounded myself with people who not only held me accountable, but they were kind of rowing in the same direction as me. A lot of us do this business. We do real estate, no matter how you're doing it, and you feel alone a little bit because your family's not doing it in most cases, your parents, your friends, and it's like everyone else is going out and doing other things, and it feels really lonely. And sometimes your perspective and your ambitions can get sort of stunted because everyone's sort of going like, well, why are you doing that? It's kind of risky. It's like there's all this, and it's usually out of love. People are trying to protect you, but it's not encouraging a lot of times. So masterminds are great for surrounding yourself with people who are trying to go in the same direction you're going. And the great thing about masterminds are usually, especially if you're in a good mastermind, there are folks in there who are a little ahead of you, and you can usually learn from them. And so that's exactly what I did. I joined a mastermind. It's called 7-Figure Flipping. Just for the record, if you're interested, you can go to 7figureflipping.com. But it's a mastermind, and I found some folks in there that were a couple of years down the road from where I was. They were ahead of me. And I just got a hold of them and said, what did you do? Like, how did you get to where you are? And then what mistakes did you make? What would you not do again if you would have had to go back where I am right now? Mm-hmm. And they laid it out for me, and it allowed me to accelerate. I mean, essentially, it's a paid mastermind, so it's not free, but I bought speed. I bought the ability to bypass expensive mistakes that I probably would have made by just being around people who had been there, done that, and they could help me do that. So for me, 7-Figure Flipping was a game changer. And I went from a guy who adamantly was against wasting, I'm doing air quotes, wasting time in a mastermind, to someone who is absolutely 100% convinced that it is, if it's not absolutely critical, it's super important. Like, it's really important. Unless you want to do one deal a year, kind of bop around and not really take it seriously, okay, maybe then you don't need one. But if you're trying to systemize this thing, if you're trying to create a business, if you want to get out of your day-to-day job, or at least just want to create a business that doesn't take all of your time, I think going into a mastermind, learning what people are doing, trying to get better, using the techniques and strategies they're using to make yourself better. And so 7-Figure Flipping, that mastermind, once a year, we have an event called Flip Hacking Live, and I've seen lives change. It's a big event. It's going to be held in Orlando this year in October from the 15th through the 17th. I highly suggest you go to that and just look at what happens there. Like, you don't have to join the mastermind. You can just go to this event and surround yourself for 3 days of people who are in these masterminds and just see what it's all about. If you're interested, you can go to fliphackinglive.com to check that out. So I'm a huge fan of masterminds, and I'm telling you, if I had to start over again, I would have gotten into a mastermind immediately, day one. Even if it was a free one, a local one, whatever I had to do, find a mentor. I would not try to figure this business out by myself, because I spent 6 years kind of bouncing around, trying to figure it out, making mistakes. My growth was slow. Like, I could have probably done in 2 or 3 years what I did in 6 years in my first, beginning of when I was doing this. So
yeah, it's definitely so critical, because like I said, you're dealing with people who are either in advance, or people there are running. Like, I would say a mastermind, you have people running like 50 different experiments. Like, oh, I'm going to try this, I try that, and they report back. You say, this works, this is my results, and you're able to kind of tweak and like I said, based off of kind of like you said, the hockey stick, the moving to the next level, level jumping, and that's like really what's critical there, because everyone's on the same page of, we want to be successful, we want to kind of maximize. We'll also create a system or a business that we can be able to spend time with our family and not be kind of caught up in the minutia of the business, which happens when you have to figure things out by yourself.
Yeah, two things you said that I want to touch on real quick. Number one, you said a mastermind, people are going out and creating all these, doing all these experiments and bringing it back. That is exactly the you said it much better than I did. Actually, a mastermind, the value is, it's like, I think of it as exactly what you said. It's all these scientists who are going back to their labs, and they're running hundreds of tests times hundreds of people in the mastermind, right? And they're all coming back with their results. Imagine how much further you can get with trying to figure out what works and what doesn't when everybody is doing independent experiments and they're bringing all that collective knowledge back. The power of that is you can't even imagine how powerful that is. And the second thing you said that I think is key, and you appreciate it as time goes on, but it's time, right? Time is the only thing you can't get back. If you lose your money on a deal, you can make it back. You can make it back and more. Everything is pretty much renewable except time. And when I was 20, I'd waste time like it wasn't anything. I didn't care. But as you get older, you realize everything boils down to time. How much time is it taking me? What am I not doing with that time? And how much time do I have? Right. So,
Right.
I mean, to me, to join a mastermind, to save myself time and headaches and failures, it's not that you're never going to fail, but you're not going to make the same mistakes, hopefully, that other people made. And I'm accelerating the time, man, that is worth everything to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, that kind of goes into my next segue because your book, Level Jumping, How I Grew My Business to Over $1 million in Profits in 12 months. Can you kind of talk to us what's the book about and where can we get it?
Totally. So the book comes directly from my experience after joining the mastermind. So I joined the mastermind. I hooked up with some folks there that were, some of the best people I've ever met, still some of my closest friends and people that I look up to as a mentor. And they really showed me and laid out the blueprint of how they did it. It's not the only way to do it, but it's how they did it. And they were willing to share their successes and failures. So I did that. And when I joined the mastermind, just to give people context and numbers, because I know when you're listening to something like this, it's like, tell me tell me the numbers. So when I joined the mastermind, I was doing 2 to 3 deals a month. Okay. And I was on about a $250,000 to maybe $300,000 run rate, or that was sort of the pace of my business. I was gonna have gross profits of somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000 by the end of the year if I had gone the way I was going. Joined the mastermind, started meeting some of these folks who were farther down the road than I was. One of them in particular, the guy that I can almost credit all of my 5 years worth of hockey stick growth, a guy named Andy McFarland. Super successful investor in Utah and a really good friend and a great person. But anyways, Andy kind of laid out what he did in his business, and we were able to go from doing the 2 to 3 deals to doing like 12 to 14 deals a month in less than 12 months. And in everything that I did, so obviously you do something like that. And I've talked on stages, I've been in front of people, I've coached, I mentored, and I get the same question. How'd you do that in a year? What did you do? Well, basically I asked Andy what it took him 3 years to do. And if he can do it in 3 years when he had to learn it organically by making mistakes, it's like hindsight. If you knew now, when you were 20, what you know now, how much more could you have accomplished, right? A lot.
Exactly.
So I just took that concept and said, if it took him 3 years to go from where I am to where he is, what if I tried to compress all that and just do it in a year? Like, just do what he did. Don't second guess him. Don't but everything he tells me. I don't like the butters. You tell them how to do something and they ask you and they say, but it doesn't work on my marketer. None of that. I just did what he said to do. And I was able to hockey stick. So people ask me how I do it all the time. And I've answered the question a million times. And I just thought at some point, why don't I just put it in a book and just so people can take that as a playbook? What did I do? And I'll be honest with you. The book is not full of like software that I use and stuff like that. It's not about the tools as much as it is about what I did. And some of the concepts that are covered in the book are how to hire successfully. Fact of the matter is, for the business that I wanted to build, I couldn't do it by myself. It's just not possible. Not enough hours in the day, and I'm only human, right? I can do a lot, but I can't do everything. So I knew I had to build a team around me, and I'm not great at everything. So I had to come to grips with the fact that I'm not the best salesman in the world. I needed a great salesperson on my team, and that made all the difference. So how do you hire successfully? How do you create a company culture? I think it's important to understand when you start bringing people on your team, you have to build the right culture in that company. And if you don't build a culture, the culture builds itself and it's usually ugly and no one likes it. So you have to be mindful of what you're putting out there in your company. Talking about your why, I talk about partnering. This is a huge topic. I have a partner and I get this question all the time. Should I partner? I think I need a partner. I'm going to partner with this guy. I just met him and he's just like me and we have the exact same skills. I'm like, no, like don't partner with someone who has the exact same skills. It doesn't multiply like it should, right?
Right.
So I talk about partnering in the book. I talk about building a culture that lasts. Like how do you so you bring people in, they're all good people, everyone's happy. What happens when everything falls apart? How do you maintain that level of production? I want people working for me that would run through a brick wall for my company, right? How do you do that? I know a lot of people who have team they hired, and they go, I don't think these people, I don't even know if they're working during the workday. Like, I'm not even sure if they are doing what I'm asking them to do, much less above and beyond. I want people who go above and beyond. How do you do that, right? And then masterminds and mentors I talk about in the book. Like, why is it important? When do you need them? Do you have to pay for a mentor in a mastermind? Do you not? Is it make sense to pay or not? Where are you at? So it's really about growing a business and scaling a business more than just specifically real estate. It can be applied to real estate. All the stories and anecdotes in the book are real estate related because that's my experience. But honestly, it's just about, here's the big fallacy, right? I worked in automotive for a while, and I knew engineers. They were the greatest engineer in the department. They were just hands down the best engineer. And then what do you do to a person like that? You promote them to engineering manager, right? And then you realize, oh, they're not a good manager. They were a good engineer. They were a good technician. They're not a good manager. And we do this to ourselves in our own business. We get really good at, say, flipping houses, and we're great at it. And then we want to scale and we want to flip more houses. So what do? We bring on project managers, we bring on salespeople, we bring on this and that. Pretty soon, we're not in the day-to-day. We're not the technician. Now we're managing people, and we realize we were really good at flipping houses. We're not great at managing people to flip houses,
Right.
and then the business starts suffering. This book is a playbook of how to not let that happen when you're trying to scale.
Yeah, and that's definitely very important there. You hit the nail on the head. And like I said, just sticking to your expertise and way to bring people around you, promote that culture. People's going to like working there and do anything to make it successful because they feel like they're part of the team. They're part of that movement. So appreciate you explaining that. Is that available on all the major book publishing platforms, Amazon?
It's available on Amazon right now. It'll be, as this becomes a live show on your podcast, it'll be available on Amazon right now initially, or you can go to my website, MikeSimmons.com, and you can order a book right there too.
Perfect. And then as far as kind of like, what's like a typical work day? I know that you kind of structure your business where you're able to, you mentioned your family.
Yep.
What's like a typical work day? And do you have any special morning routines?
Yeah, man, I tell you what, I think life is all about figuring out who you are and being smart about who you are and leaning into it. What I realized about myself a long time ago, and I only came to grips with it a few years ago, is I am not the guy who's going to get up. If you mentioned your 5 o'clock in the morning mastermind, man, I'm not a 5 o'clock in the morning guy. For me personally, I get up usually around 8:30. My wife is a teacher, so she's not at work. Obviously, so a lot of schools are not in session. So we have a little coffee together. We usually chat about our day, what we're going to do, just kind of have that morning ritual of hanging out with her. Then I normally go out for a run, work out. And so I'm starting my workday somewhere around 11:30, because I've gotten up, had coffee, worked out, got a shower, kind of took care of some small things that I needed to take care of before I get my day started. And I start around 11:30. Now, that being said, I don't typically go to bed till after midnight. So I'll work from like 11:30 until about 5. Then I'll eat, have some dinner with my wife and my kids. And then somewhere around 9 or 10, I'll go back to work for a few more hours. So that's kind of, everyone sort of starts their day early and then they're done by 5, like a typical workday. I sort of clock that a little bit. Like my workday starts a little later in the morning, but I work later at night. And sometimes it's not unusual if you're working with or for me to get an email or a text message at 1 o'clock in the morning where I'm like, say, hey, don't forget to do this. And can you get me this in the morning? Like, I'm doing a lot of stuff that people start their day doing. I do it at the end of my day. It just works better for me. I feel more productive and energized as the day goes on. Yeah,
definitely. Because a lot of people, because I always ask the guests this question just to kind of, because I've done a lot of tweaks of my own for my own routine, and I tried this and I tried that. And for me, waking up and early works for me. And I talk to people where they start, after 9, 10 o'clock, like yourself, and it just works for them and in their particular business. So as long as they're happy and they're able to get everything they need done in their business, that's all that's most important, especially the happiness of it too.
Yep, totally. So that just works for me. It's just a different time of day that I'm productive in doing things, but that's just, I feel really more productive at midnight than I do at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like I just do. It's just how I'm built.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned family with your wife, like, getting coffee and stuff. What you can say that you're most grateful for?
Who am I most grateful for?
Or, what are you most grateful for? Who, or, whatever. Man.
Yeah, I know. Who would be a tough one? So I've never been asked that question, to be honest with you. So I'm a little stumbling. I would say my mom, number one. My mom was a single mom for a lot of years, didn't have a lot of money. So I know this as a parent. I know what she sacrificed. I know what she went through, and it's tough. So, and she's never asked for anything. She's always put everyone else first. So, to me, I'm grateful for her. Second most, grateful for my kids. Being a father has changed me completely, totally. Like, there's nothing in my life that's more fulfilling or that I'm more proud of than being a dad. I have great kids who are very productive, good, level-headed, giving people, and that means a lot to me. And then last but not least, my wife. She's incredible, super supportive. Like, real estate is not always all ups. There's ups and downs in any business, and she's never wavered. She's never questioned my ability to do something. She's never questioned whether or not I should be doing it, and I've made some mistakes. I've had some pretty big failures, but she's always supported and always backed me. And man, if you can't ask for more than that from a spouse. If they back you when times are bad, and they're like, nope, I believe in you, you can do this, you got it, like, that's power, man. That's
absolutely good. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's like I said, I always love asking that question and hearing kind of like the response. And most, like I said, it's always around their family, their spouses that kind of help them, depending on whenever or however the situation is. They're always there to support you. It's a big key for us entrepreneurs. So I appreciate you sharing that. So we got to know that the book is out on Amazon. Can you give us also some contact information on your podcast or the Mastermind group? Any information that you're willing to share?
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for that, by the way. So you can reach me at mike@juststartrealestate.com. So that's mike@juststartrealestate.com. Just Start Real Estate is my podcast. I would love for any of you people that connected with what I said today to hop over and check that out. And then the 7-Figure Flipping group, you can go to 7figureflipping.com. Or if you're like, hey, I just want to check out this event you guys are having in Orlando, it's going to be awesome. You can go to fliphackinglive.com and you can check that out. It's on the 15th through the 17th of October. And then the book, Level Jumping. It's at Amazon. If you guys want to check that out, I'd be happy if you did so. And if you like the book, or if you don't, I guess, give me a rating and review and let me know what you think. That's super helpful for anybody who writes books. That's it, man. Thanks. I appreciate you letting me do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely, again, Mike Simmons, we really appreciate you taking the time. Learned a lot. Like I said, kind of brought back a lot of memories when I was just like in the house flipping and wholesaling and stuff like that. So I always love talking to people that are actively doing and kind of learn about the new tactics and strategies that's helping out investors all over the country. Because like I said, this business could be done anywhere. It's just really about implementing a system and getting it done. And like you said, just starting is the key part of it. So,
absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, appreciate it. So again, Mike, appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week and look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at DwaineLClarke.com, as well as find us on Facebook for more useful content and resources.